everyone and welcome to my February wrap up. Today is the 28th of February, so it is the last day of the month. So I've written down here all of the books that I've read with the ratings. So if you do see me look down, that's because I'm just referring to this. And I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, I read almost 9 books. So anyway, I'm going to go through this one at a time, tell you my ratings and just let you know my thoughts on the books that I read this month. Oh, and also I hope the sound is better on this video because I've played around with all the audio settings on my camera and microphone, so hopefully they're better than in the last video, because in the last video there was like all the background noise and stuff. So I'm really hoping... Oh my god, my cat is just meowing so loudly. Loki! I don't know what he wants, he's looking out the window. Loki, seriously. Here he is, he's being a pickle. It's funny because every time I go to film they just decide to go in pickle mode. So, yeah. No, don't go up there, thank you. Just go be a good boy. Okay, anyway, let's start off the video. So, the first book I read was Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren, and this one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay, it was an enjoyable romance, but it wasn't anything special, and I don't think I'll ever think about this book again, really. It's basically about Josh and Hazel, and they become friends at the start of the book, but they become friends quite quickly, and I feel like you don't really see their friendship develop. Suddenly, like, they're strangers and then suddenly they're like best friends, so it's a bit strange in that way. Loki! I think he needs the toilet because whenever he needs the toilet he goes really loopy. I don't know why. I don't know if any of you guys have cats and they do the same, but it's really odd. So it's like a friends to lovers romance. It's got some fake dating in there. So Josh and Hazel, they both decide to go on some double dates together, set each other on blind dates and go on these double dates to try and both get into a relationship with someone else. Then obviously you can imagine what happens. But yeah, so that's that one. It was okay, not amazing, so 3 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was a physical book called Little Girls Tell Tales by Rachel Bennett, and this book I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is kind of like a mystery thriller kind of book. I borrowed it from my mum, so I don't have it with me anymore, so I've given it back to her. This is about a girl who, when she was a child, she sees in these like boggy pond marsh area, she sees a dead body and nobody believes her. So she goes through her whole life believing that she saw this as a child and no one ever believed her. And then when she's older, she's back in this place and someone comes looking for someone who believes they died in the area, and obviously it's just kind of them figuring out what happened. Yeah, was the dead body real or was it her imagination? And I thought this book was a good book, but it was really slow to get into. I feel like it took a good kind of 200 pages for like things to kind of really pick up, but it was an enjoyable read. I just feel like I would have enjoyed it more if also at the end it was like wrapped up a little bit better. There was quite a few unanswered questions towards the end of the book. So yeah, if it was wrapped up a little bit nicer, I probably would have enjoyed it a bit more because you'd have got a bit more closure and understood everything a little bit more. So I gave that one 3 out of 5 stars. And then I read on my Kindle The Push by Audrain, which was one of my favourite books I read this month. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and it's basically about a woman who, like, every generation, the mothers in her family have not been good mothers, and then this woman has a child and she believes her child's evil. So it's kind of like going through, is she evil, is she not, is it all in her head? You know, you're kind of going along with like her life with her as the child grows up, and it's like her relationship with her husband as well. So people do compare this book to Verity slightly, because in Verity there's like she believes her child's evil and that kind of thing, so it's kind of similar in that way, and I do see that similarity. And I did really enjoy this book. I flew through it. It was really quick to get through. There's really quick chapters. I flew through it on my Kindle, and I definitely recommend people to read this. It is a bit more of a darker book in the sense of there's not child abuse, I suppose, and like that kind of thing. So it depends if you want to read about that kind of thing. It's not graphic or anything, but there's just a little bit about child abuse and that kind of thing. But I did really enjoy it, and I do recommend people to read it. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this book, and I think it should be talked about more because I did really enjoy it. And at the end it's kind of one of those books that leaves it up to you, so you have to kind of make up your mind in your head of how it actually ended. Well, you know how it ended, but like, yeah, you would understand when you read it. It kind of leaves the ending a little bit open. And then this is where my reading really went downhill this month. So I kind of went into not a reading slump, but just like every book I was reading I wasn't really enjoying that much. So I picked up the final book in the Shatter Me series, Imagine Me, and this book, well, this series I really, really enjoy. I love this series, but this last book, I feel like nothing happened for the first kind of 200 pages. It was really, really slow. Barely anything happened. And then all of a sudden it was just a bit messy. The ending was just very messy. I didn't really, well, I knew what was going on, but it was just a bit all over the place and it wasn't executed very well, the ending, I don't think. I mean, I think the book ended well. I think the storyline was great. I just think the writing was just really messy and that. So I ended up giving this book 2.5 stars out of 5, which is the lowest rating I've ever given one of these Shatter Me books. And then I did finish off by reading Believe Me, which is the final novella, and I enjoyed this more than this. I feel like this kind of concluded things a little bit better. This novella was from Warner's point of view, and it kind of ends things off a lot nicer. So I did fly through this book because it's only obviously a short little novella, and this one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. So it did end better with this one, so I would, if you don't enjoy this, I'd recommend finishing off with this because it kind of ends it off a bit nicer. But yeah, so I finally finished the Shatter Me series, which is good because that's a really long series, but the books are really quick to get through. So, and last week I did upload a video all about the Shatter Me series, so if you're thinking of reading the series, check out that video. I'll leave it in the description below so you can check it out, and I'll try and leave a card here somewhere as well on the video so you can watch that one. And then I started to read To Kill a Kingdom by, who is it by? By Alexandra Christo on my Kindle. And I read a few chapters and I wasn't really into it. I kind of was struggling to concentrate. I was struggling to focus on the story. I wasn't enjoying it too much. So I decided to listen to it via audio, and I listened to it while I was doing my drawing and stuff, which is like one of my jobs. If you didn't know, I like draw pet portraits and things like that, so I was just listening to the audiobook while I was doing my drawing, and I did prefer it a lot more via audio than actually physically reading it. Still wasn't the best. The storyline was just a little bit boring. I don't feel like I cared about the characters that much. It was okay, it was good enough for me to finish the audiobook, but I didn't really care what happened in the book, to be honest. I just didn't care about the characters. The plot wasn't particularly gripping. And this book is basically about a siren, and on each of their birthdays they have to take someone's heart, and that kind of gives them power. And then there's a prince who's like trying to kill her, and then obviously they get messed up in a thing, and you can kind of gather what would probably happen towards the end. There's like a romance, and yeah, it was alright. I gave it 2.5 stars out of 5. I don't particularly recommend it, but it was okay if you just want a quick fantasy standalone, but probably recommend the audio more. That was just in my case. I mean, it might not be the same for everyone, but I was just struggling to like get into any books and struggling to like concentrate on anything. And then I tried reading Collided by Lauren Asher, which is the second book in the Dirty Air series. And this one started off, there's a girl, I can't even remember the characters' names now, but anyway, the girl writes like a bucket list of things she wants to do, like crazy things, or like romantic, sexual kind of things as well. And then there's a guy she meets and he's going to help her. He offers to help complete everything on a bucket list, and that kind of is just how it starts. So I just thought it sounded really predictable. I just thought, I know exactly how this is going to play out. There's no like conflict going on or anything. There's nothing gripping me. So I read a few chapters of that and then I just DNF'd it. I couldn't really be bothered. I didn't enjoy the first Dirty Air book that much, which was Throttled. I gave that 3 stars out of 5, so it was okay, but I didn't enjoy it that much. I decided to DNF it, and I probably won't continue with this series, to be honest, because I'm just not really gripped with it and not really got much desire to continue with it. So yeah, I DNF'd that book. And then I read 2 little novellas not novellas, well kind of, they're like really short little stories by Jeremy Ray, who he contacted me on Instagram and he offered to send me some of his works for free to review. But these are also on Kindle Unlimited, so these two I did get on Kindle Unlimited and read them. So I've now read all of his books except from one of them, and I do definitely recommend his books if you're like me and you're in a bit of a reading slump and you just want something quick to pick up, just something that you're going to fly through, something a little bit different as well, because they're quite unique little stories as well. I've not read anything quite like what he writes. So I definitely recommend checking out Jeremy Ray. So the first little short story I read, which is called My Mother's Eyes, and it was basically about a guy whose mum is in a coma and he's trying to draw her, but he can't get the eyes right, and it's kind of his inner monologue of him going through his thoughts and stuff, and there's something that happens with him and his brother in that as well, and that was quite a good little short story. It was only about 30 something pages, I think, so obviously that was really, really quick, and I gave that one 3 out of 5 stars. And then the other little short story by Jeremy Ray was called The Gatherings, and this is kind of like an apocalyptic horror kind of story. Kind of reminded me in a weird, horrible way of The Human Centipede, which if you've seen that movie, yeah, you know what I mean. But this book is just, it's not as like, maybe as gross as that, because that's just a sick film, as in sick as in disgusting, not sick as in good, yeah. And this book's quite a graphic book, so if you don't like any kind of gore, maybe don't read it. But this was maybe about 70-ish pages, and I flew through this as well. This was just very, very different, not like anything I've ever read, and I feel like there is room at the end of this for a sequel, because it kind of leaves, you don't know what's going to happen next. But so I did really enjoy this quick read as well. I think I gave it 3.5 stars, so really enjoyed it. And then I decided after that, I think I was kind of ready to pick up something a bit longer after going through a little bit of a slump, and I picked up A Court of Silver Flames by J Maas, and I am here. So I've only got about this much left, which I could potentially finish today. If not, I'll finish it tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll actually finish this within February or whether I'll finish it at the beginning of March, but I'll probably include this book more in my March wrap up and give you my final thoughts of it then, but I am absolutely loving this book. It's a lot spicier than the rest of the books in the series, like a lot more spicier. Yeah, I didn't really like Nesta's character very much before this book, but she's definitely redeeming herself, and it kind of tells you, goes through like more of what's going through her head and stuff, and what trauma she's dealing with in her head and why she is the way she is and that kind of thing. And I'm absolutely loving this book so far, so I'm really glad I picked it up, and yeah, I'm nearly finished. So that's all the books that I read in February, and obviously the Kindle books and all that, so I can't hold all of them up to show you. So it was an okay reading month, nothing special. Read quite a few short books in this month because I was going through a little bit of a slump, couldn't really get into anything. But overall, read quite a few books, and yeah, I'm excited for March. I'll be uploading my February TBR in a separate video after this one, so look out for that video if you want to see what I'm going to be reading in March. And please like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye!